Hello, Algebra 1. Today we're going to be starting section 8.5, which is on factoring trinomials when a equals to 1. This is a very important lesson, so make sure you pay close attention. If you have your algebra tiles, take those out too, because we will be using these in the beginning part of our lesson. So let's first talk about what do we mean when we're factoring trinomials, and what does it mean when a equals 1? Well, first off, let's look at that word trinomial. This is a word that hopefully we've seen before. That prefix tri hopefully reminds you of 3, right? Tricycle has 3 wheels. A triangle has 3 sides. What is a trinomial? A trinomial is just a polygon with 3 terms. So if you look at all the questions that we have on our worksheet, right? Every single one of those polynomials have 3 terms, right? And that's what we call a trinomial, okay? The next thing we're going to talk about is what do we mean when we say a equals to 1? If you look at every single quadratic term, right, that's a term whose variable has an exponent of 2, x squared, c squared. If you look at the number in front of those terms, it's always a 1, right? So when we say a equals 1, what we mean is that the leading term has a coefficient of 1. So anytime you see 1x squared, that's really just x squared, right? And that's how we usually write it, okay? Lastly, what does it mean when we factor? Right? What are we doing when we're factoring trinomials? What we're doing is we're writing it as a product. Something times something is going to equal this trinomial, right? Something times something will equal x squared plus 5x plus 6. So when we're factoring a trinomial, all we're doing is rewriting it as a product of 2 or more expressions, okay? So we're going to be looking at trinomials and how to factor them using algebra tiles. So let's go right into number 1 here. We have x squared plus 6x plus 8. So what I want you to do is get your algebra tiles out. Get out an x squared tile. Get out 6 of these. And then lastly, get 8 of these individual ones. Using these algebra tiles will give us a much clearer picture of what we're really doing when we're factoring. So once you get 1 x squared tiles, 6 x's, and 8 ones, our goal will be to rearrange these tiles until we form a rectangle, okay? So typically when you create this rectangle, you want to start with your x squared term, okay? Here I'm going to put my x's next, and then you'll do the ones at the very end. So I'm going to try to see if I can form a rectangle that has 3 going this way, horizontally, and 3 going vertically. And then I'm going to try to fit my ones in here. And let's see what happens. Now if you notice, I'm just 1 tile short. And unfortunately, we could only work with x squared plus 6x plus 8. And so because this does not form a rectangle, this does not work. Now look what's going to happen when I rearrange it by putting this x squared over here. I'm going to also move these ones over here. And if you notice, we form a rectangle. And this is what we're trying to do, okay? Create a rectangle using the tiles that we have. At this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this picture on the side. So I'm going to draw my x squared tile here. I'm going to draw 4 of my x's going this way. And then I'm going to draw 2 going horizontally. And then lastly, I'm going to draw my ones tiles. And then from here, we're going to find the dimensions of this rectangle. So if you notice, x squared plus 6x plus 8 actually represents the area of the rectangle. What we're going to do is find the length and the width of this rectangle. Now, if you remember, this rectangle, this x squared tile has lengths x and x, right? Each of these short ends of the rectangle just has length 1. Similarly, 1 here and 1 here. And so when you look at the length of this rectangle, you'll get x plus 4 And when you look at the width of this rectangle, you'll get x plus 2. And so what we have is a rectangle of dimensions x plus 2 by x plus 4. And so what we're going to do now is when we write down our final answer, we're just writing the dimensions of this product, right? The length times the width will give me the area of this rectangle. And because x squared plus 6x plus 8 represents the area of this rectangle, I know that I can rewrite this as x plus 2 times x plus 4. And this would be my final answer. So if you notice, when we factor our trinomial, we're just writing it in terms of the length and the width, and we're just multiplying them together. So that's our first example. If you remember in the past, when your screen says your turn, I want you to pause the video and I want you to try the problem on your own. So see if you can do number 2 using your algebra tiles. So here you should have started off with an x squared tile. You should have gotten 5 of these. And you should have used 6 ones. And what we're going to do is we're going to rearrange this into a rectangle. So maybe I'm going to put 3 this way. I'm going to put 2 this way. Then I'm going to fit these ones in. And if you fit the ones in like this, you notice you can form a rectangle. Voila. If you put 3 rectangles going this way and 2 going this way, that will be fine, right? You'll get the same answer in the end. Now that we formed our rectangle, hopefully you drew this out, right? This is my x squared tile, which again, if you notice, is always on the top left corner. Then I'm going to put my rectangles here. I'm going to put 2 more going horizontally. And then I'm going to put the ones tiles in the bottom right hand corner. Now from here, I know that this square, this x squared tile has dimensions x by x. Each of these short ends of the rectangle has length 1. Same thing here. And so when I look at the length of this rectangle, I get x plus 3. And when I look at the width of this rectangle, I get x plus 2. And so once again, x squared plus 5x plus 6 represents the area of this rectangle. So to rewrite the area of the rectangle, I'm going to write it as the length times the width. Here my length is x plus 3, and here my width is x plus 2. And this would be my final answer. I just factor this trinomial. Now some of you guys might have written x plus 2 times x plus 3. And if you did that, that's also correct, because when you're multiplying, order doesn't matter, right? It's commutative. And so this is what we're doing when we're factoring a trinomial. All we're doing is we're writing this trinomial as a product of 2 things. In this case, it's a product of 2 binomials, where each binomial represents one of the sides of the rectangle. So this is how you factor using algebra tiles.